Daniel Pinto finally turned the tide to his favor with his maiden win in the series last week. But the Sailors racing driver might find himself in a case of too little too late, with Perez's points gap giving him plenty of room to cruise home without needing any more wins. Today's penultimate round will determine a lot about how the picture will look on their way into the last race at VIR. It's all coming down to the wire, and the Nürburgring's GP course will bring the action as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, I'm glad we get to have the ring show up on the calendar, even though it's the smaller GP course, but tell us about this layout of this legendary track.
Thanks, Joe, and guten Abend to all our viewers here. We are here live at the Nürburgring, located in Germany. This 3.2 or 5.1 kilometer 16-turn track originally was laid out in 2003. However, the Nürburgring itself was opened in 1927 and it was a monster of a track, 14 miles and 160 turns. However, this Grand Prix course is going to be an interesting race as it has provided some of the greatest racing we've seen in a long time, from Formula 1, World Sports Cars, and GT3 competition. Let's hop on board our GSRC lap guide and give you, the viewer, an opportunity to see what it's like to drive here at the famous Nürburgring Grand Prix course.
All right, we've got Amjad Yammer to the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. You'll see a lot of pass attempts into turn 1, but this corner is so sharp that it's easy to lose track of the line your opponent is taking. Take caution when you try to pull an over-under. From there, you head into the Mercedes Arena, which is the most technical portion of the track. These next few corners are all going to be slow and come up without much break in between. Figuring out the correct line can be difficult, and the one positive to take out of this is that it'll allow you to catch the slower drivers who haven't sussed out its secrets. Be sure to use as much runoff as allowed, since much of the speed can come from there. After that, you head towards Valvoline, which is going to be a medium-speed downhill left-hander. For me, it always feels like I enter too slow, but don't be fooled, as it can be easy to get over-ambitious. Try to hold left even on the exit, because it'll give you a wider entry into Ford. The reason you want to sacrifice the first part for the second one is we're going to continue to plunge downhill and keep picking up speed. This leads us into the heavy braking of Dunlop, where anxious drivers might be looking for a pass. So obviously, the best way to defend will be to get a good run down here. The heavy banking can make outside passes possible, but it's still extremely difficult to pull off. Now we're on to the back half of the course, which starts with a quick left-right flick. Feather the throttle and try to straight line them as much as you can. Don't waste time in recovering and bring the car to the right for turn 11. This feeds you directly into 12, which is going to be critical to your lap time. Make it one smooth flowing motion and set yourself up for a good exit. You're going to be on the gas for a little while, and any hesitation could make you vulnerable to the car behind. Now, the Vidal chicane coming up is sharper in other layouts, but this one takes the quick version. That makes it a lot tougher to outbrake your opponent. Don't be surprised to see a too wide attempt at some point in the race, but I can't promise that it'll end well. After that, all that's left is the final hairpin, so late apex that sucker and launch it onto the pit straight. Though we're racing in the shadow of the Nords, this place certainly has its fair share of difficulty, so treat it with respect. And with that, we now finish our lap around the Nürburgring.
There you see a slightly brighter lap than what we've got today. Very cloudy conditions, but should be a very grippy track for drivers. Now, this round of the Precision Racing League is brought to you by one of our sponsors, LeagueGaming.com, the home for competitive esports. If you love hockey, soccer, Rocket League, or other sports, League Gaming is the place for your virtual career. You can find them at LeagueGaming.com. And it's also brought to you by the Fluffy Kitty Ninja Show on Twitch. Hockey, racing, baseball, and other adventures await you when you combine 3 of the coolest things on the internet into one show. Head to Twitch and hit that follow button for FKN Commish LB. Thanks to those sponsors for helping bring this broadcast to air. Now, that said, we're letting some qualifying laps take place before we cover that. And while we do that, we're going to take a glance at the 2 championships that we bring you here. And that includes the Drivers' Championship. Up at the top, Ben Perez still leading. Pinto obviously has cut in on that, but not by a whole lot. with 14 points that you can see between them. Really, Ben can finish second in both rounds and still come out with the championship, no matter where Pinto finishes. Christian Eisler, because he did not have the best of races, didn't have the pace last time, slips down to third, even down 23 points back. He can still get that back from Pinto, though. Juan Manuel Landini and Aaron Thacker round out the top 5. Thacker, really the story of this season. Consistency, not the fastest of drivers, but just rifling them off race by race. Now, they have a team's championship, and what does that look like so far, Taylor?
Well, as we go on over to the team's championship, pulling up here momentarily, the SDS Racing Onyx team has a 5-point lead, as they are now the new points leaders in the team championship, with Team Bushfink now just 5 points back. Team HJ Motorsports, though, with Thacker and Hall, 99 points back, still holding on in that third position. Getting the new lead, fourth place team is the Sailors Racing team after Pinto's win last week. And then rounding out the top 5 in the team's championship is the Ferrari Apex Button Box team. And they've been really holding out with Luke and Overbay. So that is your team standings for this season so far.
Let's take a glance at what this race itself will entail in case you've never watched one of the American iRacing Tuesday Series races. Like we said, penultimate round, 9 out of 10 here. So this is really almost do or die time. You can see the 3 different cars, 3 different makes. They're all within the same class, the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Ford. That they race against one another. It's basically down to which you prefer because they're about even with one another. The race distance today is going to be a 45-minute race, which means you can expect 1 pit stop. And that is because of the way they do the setups. Even though they're open, as you can see, so the drivers can change them to their liking and get the car adjusted to their driving style. The fuel tank is limited. It is restricted to what the real cars can run, so they cannot make the full 45 minutes. Incident cap, there is one in this series at 30, and that you can run out of those around here. There's a number of places where you can have offs and start racking those up. What that means is drivers will be disqualified if they have enough offs or spins or wrecks. The incident caps rack up here on iRacing, or the incident points rack up here on iRacing. After enough of them, you are taken away from the track on the spot. They also have no fast repair, so there's no spare car. If they come into the pits and they have damage, you have to get those repairs done right then and there. That is going to set you back. That's what we're in for today, and what we've got currently out at the top of the timing sheets is Alexander Klank with a huge margin over Daniel Pinto.
Yeah, really stellar qualifying effort. Really, just for Alexander Klank, he looks like he is not going to be messing around. Has almost pretty much a full second on the rest of the field. And in practice, he really put about a 4/10 gap. So Alexander Klank is here to race tonight. Looking forward to see what show he puts on tonight.
And if you're curious about how the championship is looking here in qualifying, at least, Ben Perez, our 2-time champion, is currently sitting 7th. He came into the practice very late. He might be well down the order, at least here in qualifying, in terms of his pace typically, just because he hasn't got enough laps in. We'll see. He's still got time, about 5 minutes left. With just under 2-minute laps, that should be enough for him to get a couple in here. But right now, Eisler has just overtaken Pinto with this last lap that he did. So Pinto is now on the 2nd row, but he is well ahead of the driver that he is chasing, at least in time, according to 1-lap pace. There we see the Portuguese driver working his way around and just coming into Valvoline now, plunging downhill into Ford. And then it's off to one of the places where you can try to overtake here into Dunlop. And Taylor, actually, excuse me, I just realized we passed up on your usual segment that we cover. You'd making some notes, and actually since you got into here, it sounds like you've changed those notes on what the keys of the race are.
Yeah, the biggest thing when I came into the room earlier today was the weather. Weather is going to be a whole lot cooler. Track is going to be a lot more grippier for these drivers. So the weather is going to be the biggest factor of all. And actually, what's the most shocking, looking at the temperature, it's about 68 degrees Fahrenheit in this race room. So it's going to be really cool. A lot of high speeds, a lot of fast times. Looking forward into tonight. Another thing is going to be that drivers need to take care of their tires and their brakes. Turn 1 especially is going to be very key. A lot of hard braking into that corner. Drivers are going to try to overtake in that corner and end up either using too much brakes or end up messing up with the tires. So drivers are going to be needing to take care of their brakes and their tires in order to maybe save some of that tire for when they make that pit stop, or to be able to make overtaking maneuvers down later on in the race. Another point that we're going to look at is the Michael Schumacher S's. That's a high-speed corner where you can build up momentum in order to set up passing opportunities into Michelin, and also to set up passing opportunities or defending coming off of the Schumacher S's. So that's going to be a fun point to watch these drivers as they race tonight.
Oh, and we had a change in the qualifying. Juan Manuel Landini just went up to second, overtaking Eisler. But still, what shocks me is Landini's lap was only a 10th faster than Eisler, and that still leaves him a whole 7/10 down from Clank. Alexander has just stomped the field so far here in quali.
Yeah, he has. I mean, I'm pretty sure Alexander was thinking he needs to really improve, work on this car, and I think tonight he has shown that he is here to race. Looking at his times, he must have done a lot of testing, a lot of practice in order to set up that car to where it's to his liking and end up pulling away from the field like he's doing right now in qualifying.
Perez is coming across the line, and the last one, once again, did not count. He's had a number of laps where he had offs, and if you do that here in iRacing, if you leave what are considered the track boundaries, it completely erases your lap. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So only 2 timed laps so far, so he's still stuck down in 7th.
Yeah, it's very frustrating as a driver when you're running a qualifying session. You know, you hit your marks, you feel like you have a real fast lap, and when you come to the line time doesn't count because you went off track somewhere, barely even. So you have to be really so careful when running these qualifying attempts. You make sure you go put it out there for you, but also just make sure not to go off track. Just even a hair would end up costing you positions.
Watching Andrew Fawcett come across the line. This one as well for Fawcett does not count. So that 13th place does not improve.
And looking at Landini, I think he's going to go ahead and pull it in now. He has been running really strong. The only other driver to hit the 142nd bracket mark. But Landini's been showing a lot of speed these past few weeks and pretty much showing consistency, which is a big key in helping with his team in order to pull off maybe a good run in the team's championship.
We're watching Overbay, but Christian Eisler did improve his time, but did not improve his position. In fact, by less than 1/10 of a second did he improve his time. So staying in 3rd for now. And Daniel Pinto has only 1 timed lap so far. Wow, it seems like track boundaries a big problem here on the GP course. And Pinto is on his last lap right now. So if he wants to start higher than 4th, he has really got to get a clean one in.
Well, looks like Ben Perez finally decided to move up a little bit. He was able to set a new fast time for himself personally, moving into the 5th position, the 148.276. So looks like he found that little bit of speed, but still inside, not where we usually used to see him when it comes to qualifying.
And puts him right behind Daniel Pinto. It would be caddy corner on the grid. On the 3rd row will Ben Perez. Daniel Pinto, who we're riding on board with to see if he can improve. Again, the reason we're putting so much weight on Pinto, Perez, and Eisler, they are our top 3 in points, and yet only one of them have qualified within the top 3 so far this race. Could we see another new winner? Clank has been knocking on the door, but unfortunately has not been able to get to the top step of the podium so far this season. There we switch over to Eisler, who's going to be the next one across the line, as both Clank and Landini have decided to end their qualifying. Checkered flag has come out, and Eisler is not going to finish his lap. So 3rd place is the best he's going to do. Pinto is up next, coming up to Coca-Cola out of the Vidal chicane. He's got a little bit of traffic in the form of Thomas Ellison in front of him. I don't think it should hold him up. Is this one going to actually count? Pinto across the line. It does, but it's not faster than his last lap, and Perez has given up on his lap. That'll solidify the top of the order. Wow.
I can say, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very interesting race to watch with these top three. And of course, with Clank and Landini, by the looks of it, going to be starting on your front row.
Watching the last of the cars finish, James LeBlanc across the line. Mark Feil is our next one. The Pennsylvania driver improves his time and his position. Wow, up to 9th. Big jump for him. And he is the last car out on track, I believe. So with that, our grid is now settled. Let's go through our starting order. Alexander Clank has put it on the pole. We've only had 3 winners so far in the 8 rounds we've completed. Can Alexander make it 4? Juan Manuel Landini would like to do that as well. He hasn't won yet this season. He's starting in 2nd with a fantastic lap, but a long ways back in time from Clank. Christian Eisler, he's still yet to win a championship, and in fact, it's going to be even harder considering he's 3rd in the points. He's also going to be starting 3rd on the grid. Daniel Pinto is 2nd in the points, but he is only able to go 4th fastest today, getting a lot of off tracks during his qualifying. Ben Perez will be P5, coming in late to the practice, and it seems like it's hurting him yet again. And then next to him in row 3, it'll be Michael Overbay with a phenomenal lap there to start 6th. Aaron Thacker, Mr. Consistency, starting up a much better position than we're used to seeing for him there in 7th. And then Thomas Ellison will be P8 at the drop of the green. Mark Feil will start in 9th, and Pete Mabroten will be in the top 10. Taylor?
Starting in 11th in the 09 will be Eric Luke, followed by, in the 12th position, Lucio Vargas. Mr. Takesha Kida in the 13th position, where it's going to be fun to watch that Ferrari go up through the field, followed by Guillaume Dupont in the 14th position. Andrew Fawcett is going to be starting in 15th position, followed by the 164 Ford GT of Justin Hall. In 17th is Moises Labato in the 57, followed by the Fluffy Kitty Ninja himself, the 007 James LeBond in 18th. Carson Quint will start in the 19th position, followed by Victor O'Brien in the 02 in the top 20. And rounding out, riding shotgun in the last row is Gary Schillings in the 21st, followed by Cristobal Valenzuela, who did not set a time, starting 22nd.
There's your starting grid for round 9. Few cars missing here today, but you know, we are in the middle of the summer break over in Europe. So maybe some of those drivers have decided to go and relax somewhere on the beach. And then some drivers might be getting ready for school over here in the States as well. Before we go to green, just another mention, a big thank you to both LeagueGaming.com and to FluffyKittyNinjas.com for sponsoring this race. Definitely check them out again. That's LeagueGaming.com. And then Fluffy Kitty Ninjas are on Twitch. That is at FKN Commish LB over there. Give them a look and tell them we said a huge thank you for making this broadcast happen. Roof Pace Car is waiting to get them going. It's not going to be a full pace lap here, maybe about a quarter of a lap before we go racing, thankfully, giving us a nice brief period if drivers are wanting to warm up those tires, which don't think they just necessarily will need to, as they should be in good enough condition. They obviously would want a longer pace lap if they did. Just up here to the Vidal chicane, one of the places where you can attempt passes. And then it's to Coca-Cola. You can see the last of the train trying to catch up. Hopefully they won't have an incident like we saw at Imola, where unfortunately they ran into the pack as the leaders tried to slow things up, waiting for the green flag. The final hairpin out of the way as the pace car is now in pit lane. Clank has control of the field, waiting patiently. Green flag is out, and off goes Alexander Clank, but he does not get a good start at all. Here comes Juan Manuel Landini up around the outside down into the first corner. Could we see a repeat of last round where the leader loses it on the first turn? No, it looks like he's able to fend him off. It's just too sharp of a hairpin for Landini. The rest of the car is checking to see that everyone gets through. I'm not seeing any incidents.
No, really clean start for but it looks like we have close to 3 wide, though, between Ellison, Thacker, and Overbay. They head out of the Mercedes arena. Really good run by these guys. Let's see what happens as we have a battle now for the 3rd position.
Yeah, that's Pinto on the inside, Eisler on the outside down, and a Valvoline. Not as much braking as you'd think into that corner. And it looks like Pinto comes out ahead. Perez has not gained a spot. He still sits there in 5th. He might be content, I wonder, if he's just points riding to just let them lead the way if he knows he's not going to lose too many to these two.
That would be a smart call for Ben Perez to do. Just run his race, let everyone else in front of him make the mistakes. He's just got to cruise his way to a points championship pretty much. So no pressure for Ben Perez tonight.
Took a little bit of a look up towards the Schumacher S out of Dunlop, but couldn't do anything with it as our leaders break down into Michelin and Bilstein. Clank is leading the way and starting to stretch away. It's 0.8 of a second over Juan Manuel Landini as we get ready to finish the first lap.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Clank runs on his first lap. So let's see if it's just race speed or qualifying that he was able to set, because I was really impressed with his lap time. As they go around, the Coca-Cola game isn't much of anything right now. So we're doing okay right now.
Well, welcome back as we watch Alexander Clank continue to lead round 9 here in the American iRacing Tuesday series. Apologies for the technical issues there for the moment. Seems like we've got him sorted out. So it's not just Ben Perez who's having a little bit of trouble with his internet. Still only 5 minutes into this thing, and Clank is absolutely romping away. Everything behind him, though, still very close with our top 10. But we haven't really paid close attention to the mid-pack so far. Why don't we jump down there here, Taylor, and take a look at a group of Guillaume Dupont in 11th, Eric Luke in 10th, and Pete McBroten in 9th.
Yeah, looking at it right now, Eric Luke and Pete McBroten right now are having a nice battle as they head down into Dunlop. And really good battle between it as they're now bringing in also Mark File as they're closing in on him up through the Schumacher S's. Let's see what Pete McBroten can do. Is he able to gain any time? Oh, actually, we're in Dunlop right now.
Yep, they work their way through the hairpin, and DuPont giving watch on these guys. I believe it was DuPont who was fighting with McBroten that we saw last round at Road America. He's got one car between them. Actually, oh, DuPont was way off the line through the Schumacher S. I think he's going to lose a spot.
Yeah, he is. He lost a spot to Vargas as they went through Michelin. Looks like DuPont just hit the curve a little too hard, and they just sent him into the gravel trap a little bit, but he was able to recover the car.
There we see McBroten able to continue on his way ahead of Eric Luke, who now doesn't have to worry about who's behind him anymore. Just focus on in front. Is the Schumacher S flat out in these cars, or does it need a little lift?
With the right setup, you could really go flat out, but for some setups, you might need to let the car breathe just a hair in order to set the corners up. But for the most part, it's just depending on how you have the car set up to where if you can go flat out or just let that car breathe. So they're doing a really good job for the most part. I've seen some cars go flat out, and I've seen some cars breathe a little bit as we have a little brake lockup with DuPont. It looks like guy was able to get back by Vargas as now Kita is coming out on the outside of him through the Mercedes arena.
And up ahead of that, we missed an overtake with Aaron Thacker managing to get past Overbay in the first corner. But Overbay is not done with it as he is in an HJ sandwich. Thomas Ellison now rocking up to the back of him. His 027 Porsche looking to try. Oh, and I think he's going to get him.
Yeah, Overbay had a mistake going into the corner. Washed up too high, but he's going to fight Ellison down now as they head into Dunlop. Oh, contact!
Oh, and Overbay goes around. Also, apologies, that is Ellison in a Ferrari. Gets it going once again as cars stream by. Let's take a look at the replay. Was that netcode? Because it didn't look like they were that close from my angle.
It didn't. After looking a little closer, it looked like netcode, but let's take a look at that replay.
Unfortunate to see. This is plunging down the hill out of Ford. The right-hander they're about to hit is Dunlop. Yeah, that looked like netcode from there. They were not making contact in the sim. So we come back live. That unfortunately drops Overbay not just out of 5th, but down to 10th. So a lot of positions lost. Oh, and McBroten just had a problem in the Vidal chicane. Absolutely cut through it
That's going to be a time penalty for Mabroten.
Indeed. In fact, he lost out to Eric Luke, who streamed on by. This looks like just a basic overshooting of the corner.
Yeah, just missed his braking point. Thought he was enough brakes to hit the mark, but straightforward in through the chicane and just kept on going. Luckily, was able to keep the car going.
Yep, although I suspect clattering over as fast as he did through that sand trap, he may have done a little bit of damage to the under tray of that car. That separates many of the battles that we were just watching in the mid-pack. Instead, if we jump back a little bit further, down to 12th, Takeshi Kita is hassling Justin Hall for that spot. Kita, we've been watching him repeatedly make up positions from the start. Not so today. Started 13th. He's still 13th.
Yeah, he's just really much been not able to make any ground up as he now... Oh, who was that? Looks like Fawcett tried to outbrake Kita and ended up costing him big time, though, as Mark Feil is getting by him as they head up to Schumacher.
Had the opposite effect that he wanted. That's Mark Feil on the 777. The red Porsche sneaking on through. Let's see if Fawcett takes a go back at him. Back to the racing line with Mark Feil coming up to Michelin and just runs out of track. If these two start fighting, that black and blue car, that is Moises Lobato, ready to pounce.
Yeah, Lobato is looking and watching these two Porsches battle it out as they head down towards the chicanes. And really, Lobato has been running real quiet right now at the moment. I know it's still early on in the race, but he usually is up towards the top 12, top 10 before the race is over. So it's going to be fun to watch, see what he can do. Round
Coca-Cola hairpin. Fawcett trying to set himself up. A good launch, actually, out of that final corner. He is well within the slipstream of Mark Feil as they fly towards the camera up to the first turn hairpin, and Fawcett takes a look to the inside. Can he outbrake him? He's going to be given the apex. Possibly Feil could try and outgun him off the corner. It's going to switch back in favor of turn 2 in the Mercedes arena. But look at the grip that he's finding around the outside as Fawcett is not going to give up. Tries again through turn 3. And this time it looks like he finally has to give up the ghost.
Yeah, he had to be careful. Otherwise, Lobato would have been able to get by him. So it looks like he just had to wait.
Valiant effort, but unfortunately number 94 is going to have to set himself up for another try later. He's right on board with Feil looking back. So far, relatively clean race for these guys, I'd say. Taylor, everybody had a pretty good first lap, and then now everyone's kind of settling in.
Yeah, really much. Everyone's just running their racing line, trying to either pull away or gain position. So no major battles going on. I was looking at the lap times with Clank. He ran a 1:48.39 his last lap. Landini, a 1:49.1. So Alexander Clank is almost about a full second in lap times running away from this field. So really outstanding effort for Clank.
On screen, we're watching the battle between Kita and Hall. We watched a little bit of it before we saw Mark Feil fall backwards. Then as they come around the final corner, this is where most of the drivers tend to try and make their overtakes into that first turn with that hard braking into the sharp right-hander. Kita, I think, a little too far back this time.
Just not enough to make the position, so he's just going to try to hit his marks into turn 1, see if Hall makes a mistake, and nope, no problem at all as they head into Mercedes Arena. So Kita waiting for Hall to make a mistake for him to pounce.
And that was Vargas ahead of them that we saw that puff of smoke from into the first corner. No harm, no foul for him. Didn't really lose any time, just locked up the right front a little bit. But look at how closely Hall is being chased as Kita trying to get right up to that gearbox. Out of Valvoline, into Ford. Oh, wow, he is looking very strong. Takeshi seems to have mastered that section. Takes a peek down into Dunlop. Can't quite do anything, Taylor.
No, he cannot. It seems like that Hall has a good runs off as Hall gets off a little bit off course into the gravel trap, but still was able to recover. Not enough for Kita to make a move. So Hall's just been running a clean, smooth run through some of the corners. Kita is able to good in some parts of it, but then Hall just has that little extra effort to where he could just stay in front of Kita.
And as that is happening, Guillaume Dupont farther up the road is starting to catch Pete Mabroten. This is for 8th position between these two. Slamming the brakes down into the Vidal chicane. The bright green Sprite car of DuPont gets a great run out of there, but doesn't quite have enough to make a surprise attack into Coca-Cola. Let's see what he can do out of here onto the front stretch, Taylor.
Yeah, he's really closing in now. He's going to try to use the slipstream to his advantage. Maybe look to the outside, make Moises Pete Mabroten think about blocking the inside, and we'll see what happens. Not close enough. Hard braking into turn 1. Beautiful job by both drivers to get through there nice and smooth as they head into Mercedes Arena.
And Taylor, we haven't talked about it yet, but we just ticked by that 1/3 mark. That means the pit window should be open.
Yes, indeed. So I don't think we'll see any drivers coming in these next 2 or 3 laps, but maybe within the next 7, 8, 9 minutes, we might be seeing some more drivers considering making their pit stops early. So especially with these cooler weathers, a little bit easier on the tires for these drivers. Might come in a little bit earlier than usual. So it's really interesting to see.
I wonder, though, could we maybe see some of the drivers towards the back come in as we switch up to the battle for P2 here? Because Landini and Pinto have gotten incredibly close together. Pinto has chased him down. But as we stay on this fight, I'm wondering, since they're not anywhere near being lapped by the leaders, should maybe some of the drivers towards the back maybe come in and get some clear air? And Pinto taking a look. This is up to the Vidal chicane. He's going to have to go the long way around. Doesn't brake late enough. Landini's going to stay ahead now, Taylor.
Yeah, he is. But to go back about the fueling, we might see some of those back markers. You know, they're not in a run for a championship. I'm pretty sure they want to try to get a good finish. So there might be some gambling as far as coming in early in order to maybe leapfrog some of the competition.
Let's stay on this, but just an update. We have not seen Perez reconnect. At this point, we are 10 laps into this race. It's highly unlikely that they'll be able to make up many spots. I wonder if this is going to become the drop race for Ben Perez, and he's only going to be able to get 8 points going into the next round.
This will be an interesting thing at VIR, so this is just, you never know what's going to happen in a race. That's why we run the races, ladies and gentlemen.
So put yourself in Pinto's shoes here, Taylor. If you've been keeping track of things, you know that your main rival in the championship is not going to get points, or the points that he is going to get are incredibly minimal. Do you try and push hard to get up for this second or even the win? Or do you just say, okay, I'm going to try and play it safe right at home and get as many, get these points that I know I have, just so that I have something to overtake him for the next round?
Well, of course, you always want to try and go for the win, period, if you're in a championship battle for the championship. So Pinto is definitely going to try and go for the win. But due to the fact Clank is really pulling away from the competition, he has his eyes set on the highest position he can get to get the most points possible. So I think tonight, Pinto's main focus will be on Landini in order to get that P2 spot, in order to gain as many points as he can tonight on Perez before they go to VIR.
So we switch down to the mid-pack once again. Mabroten was being hassled by DuPont earlier in this lap, but he's able to stretch away slightly, keep himself a little bit safer. Much better job from Mabroten through the Vidal chicane that time through.
Yeah, really good run, but looks like DuPont has a good run off of Coca-Cola. Down the front straightaway they go, trying to use the draft setup for an opportunity, but I think he's just too far away to make a move.
Oh, and we have a taker for a scheduled stop. Michael Overbay comes in from, I think he was in the 10th position before this.
Yeah, he was rounding inside the top 10 and right at 10th place, so let's see what he does. Comes in pit road.
Gonna find his stall. Shouldn't really see anything dramatic here, as drivers shouldn't need to take tires. Just getting a splash of fuel and be back out and on their way. This is almost exactly at the halfway point, just a couple minutes shy. going to return to the track in 20th position. The only driver that will be behind him is Gary Schilling. Up to second place since the battle is separated between DuPont and Mabroten. Landini still has Pinto holding on by about half a second, but isn't close enough to strike at the moment. Heading through the kink up into the Vidal chicane one more time. Landini probably feeling a bit of pressure at this point. He started this in second place, qualified there, so we know he's got the speed. Question is, can he keep it up over the entire race?
Yeah, a long way still to go for Landini. We've seen Landini run really good runs, but then towards the end up having a small mistake or get caught up in someone else's mistake. So we're really going to be watching Landini to see if he's able to close out the deal tonight. But Pinto, I think we'll have something to say about that for that second position.
And let's not forget, behind them, we keep seeing him on screen. That's Christian Eisler in the 727 Porsche. He's trying to get back ahead of Pinto in the points, not just Perez. So Eisler probably will want to do something before all is said and done, because he needs to try and retake that second place in the points.
Yeah, and I think Eisler's main goal tonight probably is to try and get that win as soon as he can and get to the lead. I don't know if he will get to it, but if that small mistake and that opportunity arises, I'm pretty sure Iceman will fight for the lead if it comes to it.
Had another taker for the pit stops. Lucio Vargas has come in and out. Highest pitter still Overbay, though. Overbay dealing with a bit of traffic of cars who haven't pitted, which is slowing him up. Meanwhile, we stay on our leaders. Landini leading this train of three. This is second place Landini, third Pinto, fourth Eisler at the moment. The reason you don't see first is because that's Clank, a whole 6.2 seconds ahead of this group.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what Clank's been doing. He's been running real good all season, having those good podium finishes, just never able to close it out. But if things go smooth tonight for him, we're looking at maybe possibly a new winner.
It's looking highly likely right now. All he's got to do is just keep this up. Just stunned at Alexander able to do what he does. Clank, however, despite what the name might imply, he actually hails from the Virginias. And I know he does actually have the German flag colors on his helmet, so I suspect, there we can see it on screen, I suspect maybe there is some German heritage, so this might be still kind of special for Alexander.
Yeah, and then of course next week will be a home week for him since he is part of the Virginia Club from VIR, so pretty sure he's looking forward to going to his club track next weekend. But Alexander really just, watching him in practice and qualifying was just amazing to see him set down the lap times. Seeing how smooth his lines were was just phenomenal. And with these cooler temperatures, it really came into play for him.
All right, Guillaume DuPont has come in and out, and he's actually going to come out right in a battle with Overbay. These two were relatively close before the stops, and they're close yet again. DuPont is going to be the highest pitting car now in 17th. This may change depending on if Michael can maybe squeak by.
Looking in at the battle for 11th between Justin Hall and Mark Feil as they head up through the Schumacher S's. Nice battle between the two right now, heading into Michelin. Feil is trying to make a pass on Mr. Justin Hall in that 4GT as Hall misses his apex, wins off course in Michelin, giving Feil the position. So real good job for Mark Feil right there.
There may be a lot of runoff room. The barriers may not be as close in a lot of places as the Nordschleife, but you can still make mistakes, and that can still be costly in terms of position, as Justin Hall just found out. Shouldn't be too disappointed, though. He started at 16th. He's currently running in 11th.
Eric Luke now is on pit road in that number 09 Ferrari. So he was in the 8th position before he pitted. So let's see where he comes out next.
I believe he was in a battle as well with our drivers who have run to the top of the pitters. That's DuPont and Overbay. So I kind of want to keep an eye on these guys to see exactly where Luke comes out. Not missing any battles out on track. Everybody's pretty far apart from one another right now. In fact, the closest one, as we take a look at Luke, the closest one is DuPont and Overbay. Luke coming out. Luke is ahead of them. I think Luke's going to stay ahead. Indeed, he's got a good gap between himself and DuPont, including the car of Cristobal Valenzuela between them.
Yeah, so Eric Luke had a really good pit stop, was able to get out of there nice and clean, and is now able to be the highest car that has pitted currently at the moment.
Nice job for the Florida driver. Again, though, we're not sure that this will be super effective in getting them up too many positions, but whoever you're fighting with directly, it can have an effect. Second place, speaking of effects, has not dropped away from one another. Is it difficult to try and overtake cars here? Is the aero wash, does it make it hard to follow the driver ahead?
It is to a degree, but also just there's very few passing opportunities, surprisingly. You know, it's very slow speed corners, and once you get out of the Mercedes arena, and just very hard to place the car, as it looks like Landini made a small mistake into turn 1, but still is able to pull away from Pinto. But it's just so difficult to play, knowing when to place the car and then get the power down coming off the corners when you go right back into another slower speed corner. So drivers are just trying to wait to see if a driver ahead of them makes that mistake, or, you know, if they're having that good run off, to be able to just set up that pass to look to the inside and make the move, or even go to the outside.
No such luck so far for Daniel Pinto. Landini been mostly solid as a rock up there in second place. And Landini is not in our points battle, I believe.
No, but he is helping out with Eisler to compete for that team's championship. So this run is, in a sense, helping out with the team in order to maybe even get a good run in the point standings for the team championship.
Good catch there, Taylor. Always easy to forget about the team's championship, which is just as meaningful for these drivers. And probably a little bit more difficult to win, I'd say, because you need two solid drivers, not just yourself, to worry about. As we watch Landini lead the way ahead of Pinto and Eisler. That is second, third, and fourth on your screen. Farther down, remember we watched Eric Luke come out of the pits. Well, behind him, Guillaume DuPont and Overbay haven't separated too much, although DuPont's got him at arm's length for the moment.
Yeah, all three of those are lined up now, nose to tail as far as position-wise. So we're right, Eric Luke, then DuPont, then Overbay. Overbay is able to close in just a little bit as DuPont made a mishap in the Dunlops as they go up to Schumacher. Overbay using the curbs to help guide the car up through Schumacher into Michelin. So, but no problems at all, but still just closing in on DuPont.
And it seems like time flies, because wasn't that long ago I said we were entering the pit window. We're starting to get to the end of it. 17 minutes left here, Taylor. We should see more drivers come in soon, I would assume.
Yep, James LeBlanc now coming in pit road in that 007 Fluffy Kitty Ninja Porsche. Gotta love saying that name sometimes. But anyways, they're now coming down pit road. Sfossa made a little mistake into turn 1.
Indeed, as we watch LeBlanc, the New England driver, come into his stall. Should be overtaken by pretty much all the drivers we've already seen pit.
P2 heating up.
Still no sign of Ben Perez, by the way. I think we can safely put that one to bed and say he is not returning.
Yeah, unfortunate for Ben Perez, so he really has to work hard at VIR next week. But Pinto, though, has a really good run as they head down towards the chicanes. Has a nice run, going to use that draft and try to maybe look to the inside. No, Landini's going to try and throw a defensive move. Yeah, down to the chicane, not close enough.
Definitely not for Pinto. And, ooh, interesting strategy call here, while the other two stay out. This will give Pinto clear air. Could this be a chance for him to make a leapfrog? Christian Eisler, should he try and battle now, knowing that those two need to get hot laps in? Landini, we expect, will easily come out as the highest pitter once he is done with his fuel stop.
I think Eisler realizes what he needs to do, so he is going on the attack now on Pinto through Mercedes Arena.
But the thing is, if he starts racing side by side, that's going to slow both of them down, and they could lose touch with Landini.
Yep, but that's why Eisler needs to get by him quickly as possible.
Landini is in and out, and he is well ahead of the next driver down, Eric Luke, who is actually the whole front stretch back. You see Landini working with what I believe is the Argentinian flag there on his top. Hispano-America is his club, so I'm not sure if that actually falls, if Argentina falls under that. I'll have to do some research. All right. Let's head up to Clank. Poor guy hasn't really gotten any screen time. I think he's happy for that, though. The HJ Motorsports blue and yellow Porsche still cruising around, although he's not pulling away as fast. It's 7.7 seconds from him to Daniel Pinto, and he is going to take his stop now. Should be, unless he has some sort of drama, should just be easily moving him back to the lead once everybody takes their stops.
Yeah, he has a far enough gap to where he's able to go through. His Pinto now is coming in, and Eisler, so
this is the one we want to watch.
Yeah, let's see who gets off pit road first.
Pinto and Eisler were in a battle for second place with Juan Manuel Landini. He's currently our car highest up, who has taken their one and only stop. He's actually coming up to the Vidal chicane as we watch Eisler and Pinto hit their stalls. Landini's heading around the final corner. There goes our leader. Clank leaves the pit lane and returns to the track.
Pinto gets off first, but we still got a little bit into corner one. Let's see what they can do.
And I think they're ahead of Landini. They are indeed ahead of Landini. They managed to jump him. Critical moment for Daniel Pinto, who now takes a few points more to try and stretch the gap coming into the final round over Ben Perez.
That was a really stellar work by the pit stop that Pinto was able to do. That's what he needed to do in order to gain and hold that second position.
What a plot twist that we're experiencing here late in the season. It opened with some shockers, then it seemed to return to business as usual with Perez taking a string of wins, and suddenly things have turned upside down.
You gotta love GT or sports car racing, period, with all this action going on tonight. I mean, who doesn't want to then want to tune in next week to watch the season finale at VIR?
It's going to be a good one for sure. We're still waiting on a couple more pit stops. Ellison, Mabroten, and Fawcett have all not come in to take their lone stop.
Eisler, though, is closing in on Pinto. He gets off into the gravel trap a little bit, but is right all over Pinto. So I think Iceman is wanting to get by him as they go towards the chicane. He goes to the outside and tries to outbrake. Close contact. Is he going to get it? Contact!
Oh, they come together, and Pinto is off. Pinto is in the wall. In a moment when he needed to bring as many points home as he could, he sees them start to slip away. This promotes Eisler up into second now on the replay. I wondered about going too wide into that chicane, Taylor.
That is something you should not be really doing. You need to make that pass before you get to the entry, because if you don't, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be contact, and you're going to end up in the barriers.
Pinto's able to continue, but it's now down in fourth. He was overtaken by Landini. He stopped the bleeding there. So Eisler, I wondered about just the fact that he stayed behind him as we go up to this battle for second, because Landini has now caught Eisler. He might not be without damage, but I wondered Taylor, if Eisler was just saying, all right, we'll just let Pinto lead the way, we'll jump Landini, and then I'll take him when I feel safer.
Yeah, well, apparently he wasn't safe enough in order to make that pass, because it might have ended up costing both of them. So Pinto is really probably going to be driving angry almost in a sense to try to catch back up, but Eisler, though, is P2, so I tell you what, Nürburgring has provided some very interesting storylines for tonight.
It really has. I said that a lot was on the line in this race for what it sets up for next week, and I tell you, there's really no bigger fan of Juan Manuel Landini right now than Ben Perez. I imagine he is cheering him on to get right on the back of Eisler, although he has dropped off a bit. We jump back down to DuPont now, who is in a fight with Overbay and Mabroten, making a bit of a train behind the 009.
Yeah, Pete Mabroten gets a really good run off the corner, so he's going to try to look at Overbay and make a pass. I don't think he's going to be close enough as they go down towards the chicanes, and looks like Overbay's braking a little bit too hard, so he's got to be careful not to clip the corners too much, get that time penalty, or end up hitting the curves and spinning the car out.
Indeed, the fluffy kitty ninja Porsche is trying to claw its way forward, still working on Overbay up the front stretch, and I don't think that's a good enough run to have an attack here. Instead, Overbay looking forward on Guillaume DuPont, closes in, down into the braking zone of that hairpin, but just not quite close enough.
No, not indeed, but he is still going to try and fight his way up through the Mercedes arena. DuPont holding on in P7, Overbay in 8th, and just a really good show tonight between these two. DuPont's been quietly running up through the field, but just been battling with Overbay pretty much the entire race, those two.
Let's stay on this battle in case Overbay
Pinto's off.
Oh no! More trouble for the driver's second place in the points. This happened into Valvoline, and this was driver error.
Looking at the car, just gets loose as before he gets into Valvoline, he just spins the car out.
And you're going to see Ellison go by here as he gets it to a halt, but that blue and yellow machine was Thomas Ellison, who now moves into 4th. Now, this isn't the end of the world still, as we're going to watch it one more time from onboard Ellison. Great evasive maneuvers here by the New Yorker.
Yeah, Ellison's been running really smooth these past few races. Been real impressed with his runs, almost being like his teammate.
Overbay had a problem. Just now, he spun it out, and this was out of Bilstein. He's got back going, you can see. This was the driver sandwich between Mabroten and DuPont. And unfortunately, that Ferrari just slipped away from him exactly when he didn't want it. A slow, lurid spin. Has to turn it completely back around in the grass and get it going. He returns in 12th position.
Yeah, those slow spins where you think you can save it, but you can't, is just so excruciating because you're wondering when is it going to end where you can get back going. So it's just hold on and try your best to keep it off the wall.
That's Justin Hall that he's now trying to chase down. But what I was about to say before that incident happened there, Taylor, is it's not the end of the world for Pinto. I still think he'll be ahead of Perez in the points when this race is done, if they finish where they are. But you have to think with the pace that Perez typically has, that Pinto's going to want every little point he can grab.
Oh, most definitely. Pinto wants to probably get back to where he was in second place, but it's going to be a really tall order for Pinto to get back there. So I think Pinto might need to consider just get back into the top 5 and then just try to hold on for these last few minutes.
Yeah, and you can see the little bit of damage on that Porsche. Probably not helping. Could be ill handling here. Let's jump a little bit down because Takeshi Kita and Lucio Vargas are in a nice little fight, and they're not alone because they've also got Andrew Fawcett, the number 94, leading the train.
Yeah, surprised with Kita tonight. He usually worked his way up in towards the top 12 by now, but just having a little bit of a slow night for him. Just running in 15th, but only a few minutes, he might be able to work his way at least back to where he started.
They're going to spread apart as they come up here to the chicane, then accordion back together as they all brake hard, sliding through what is the faster version of that chicane. We should point out the NGK version, what the Formula One guys run, not being tackled by these drivers, and really nobody getting any opportunity as they complete another lap.
Looking at right now, DuPont and Mabroten are all over the back end of Pinto. DuPont tries to dive in a little bit, but is not close enough to make the pass. So Pinto is under heavy pressure by Mabroten and DuPont right now.
He's got to be damaged. Pinto had much better pace, it seemed, earlier on in this race, and now that he's fallen back into the clutches of 7th and 8th position, I'm getting a little worried here for Daniel. And Daniel has no drop weeks available. He had a no-show on one of them, and that gives him a 0. That is his drop week, unless he scores another 0, in which case, obviously, he just makes no points.
Yeah, so this is going to be a frustrating night for him, but also a good night for Ben Perez also, since all his front-runner competition are having a little bit of trouble as DuPont now looks to the inside and makes the pass.
Makes it look easy into Michelin. And Pinto's not done because Mabroten's trying to go the long way around of Bilstein, and he gets a good head of steam. I think this might be job done by the time they hit the braking zone.
Oh yeah, way before there. Mabroten putting on a good clinic, makes a nice pass. As we look closer at the car of Pinto, he does have a lot of wing damage to that car, so that's definitely affecting the aerodynamics of this car with helping with turn-in, along with straight line speed.
The other car on the end of that contact was Christian Eisler, if you're just joining us a number of laps ago. And he hasn't been able to gain on Clank, but I'm not sure he cares too much about that right now. 10 seconds between himself and P1, but he's also been stretching away from Landini. It's now 1.2. It hasn't been huge gaps each lap, but it's been enough that the 444 is really not a threat to the 727 at the moment. The reason that I don't think Eisler cares right now is he can see his F3. He can see that Daniel Pinto is nowhere near him. And he also knows that Perez is gone. This is just everything coming up roses for Christian.
Yeah, so this is a good night for Christian Eisler. You know, even with the little incident happening between him and Pinto, this has got to be feeling good for Eisler going into VIR next week.
And for our viewers who have not been following this series in the past, Eisler got beaten out last season. He was the main rival to Ben Perez, who has been our champion 2 times in a row and has been trying to make it a three-peat. Came back from an incredibly horrible start to the season and looked like he was going to just romp to it. But now everything is changing, and Eisler might finally get redemption.
Mr. Consistency, Aaron Thacker gets by Daniel Pinto now and gets into P8. So a really good run pretty much for the entire HJ Motorsports team, running 1st, 4th, and 9th. So really good effort by the team tonight.
This is going to be a hard pill to swallow for Daniel Pinto, especially after taking his first win, looking at possibly taking the points championship lead. He might still yet get it, but position by position, that lead is becoming smaller and smaller as he's now down to 9th even. Wow, how things can change, and oh so quickly. It's becoming a bit of a cliche that I trot out every once in a while, but I repeatedly find it true race after race. The checkered flag decides all.
Oh, most definitely, for sure. And Landini, though, is closing in on Eisler a little bit. So we might still have a battle for second. Landini, I think, wants to get by his teammate Eisler.
Down at the back of the pack, Andrew Fawcett, we were watching this earlier on, still has both Vargas and Kita, but am I seeing right? Was Vargas ahead of Kita before, or is there a swap of positions there?
Now, Vargas has been holding his own right now ahead of Kita for the most part. He's been closing in on Fawcett, though, so it's been a really tight battle between these 2 Porsches and the Ferrari of Kita.
Boy, Kita getting all over the back of Lucio Vargas. I thought maybe Vargas looked a little bit defensive down into the Dunlop chicane. Either way, no move from Kita.
Oh, off by Vargas. This gives Kita that opportunity up to the Schumacher.
Takes it easy. Great move by Takeshi Kita. It's always easier to pass on the straights than it is in the corners. That gets him 14th spot. White flag has come out for Alexander Klenk. He was so close to wins at the start of the season, just missed out on it a few times, especially when Ben Perez was at his peak. And well, when Ben Perez hit trouble this time, Klenk was not going to let it slip through his fingers. He has been dominant all race long. It's 11.5 seconds from himself back to Garrett and Eisler. And pretty much all of the drivers who could have maybe challenged him essentially took each other out as the race went on and fell by the wayside. So the 727 puts another lap there on Victor O'Brien. The HJ Motorsports Porsche really under no threat at all at this point. Just half a lap to go, Taylor, and he'll take his first win of the season. 2 races in a row here will get first-time winners.
Yeah, and Klenk is definitely deserving of a win. He has just been a stellar performance to watch the entire season. Really great effort by Klenk and the HJ Motorsports team for what they've put on for these shows. So as they go down through the chicanes one more time into Coca-Cola, Alexander Klenk looks like to be our winner tonight.
And he is going to be our winner. Alexander Klenk across the line, weaving in celebration. Give the 337 the win today in round 9. Christian Eisler took on all comers, and when I thought he didn't have the pace for the second race in a row, the 727 is going to take second place. Landini follows him home to third.
Here comes Thomas Ellison, a really stellar performance by Thomas. Seen him running this season inside the top 10, but now inside the top 5 tonight. Very good job by the 027 Ferrari of Thomas Ellison.
P8 to P4. You talk about consistency. That was great from him. Eric Luke as well from 11th to 5th. Even more positions gained for him. DuPont, wow. They just keep getting more impressive. DuPont went from 14th to 6th. That is a jump.
And Pete Mabroten battled it out with Aaron Thacker to the line, but Mabroten was able to hold him off for Mr. Consistency of Aaron Thacker. Really great job by those two.
Pinto stopped the bleeding at 9th, but I think his head is going to be in his hands after this race is over. There we see Lobato coming home there in 16th. The last driver who should come across the line is, I believe, Valenzuela.
Yep, he is getting ready to head down towards the chicane for the final time. That 333 Ferrari's just been quiet all night tonight. Didn't have no problems, so good effort for him. Give him a little screen time and a little shout out as he goes through Coca-Cola one more time.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with our unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And stick around because on the screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We just watched an absolute stunner in terms of the results for round 9, the penultimate round of the American iRacing Tuesday series. And before we get to the results, just want to remind our viewers of our sponsors, LeagueGaming.com. This round of the Precision Racing League is brought to you by LeagueGaming.com, the home for competitive esports. If you love hockey, soccer, Rocket League, or other sports, League Gaming is your place for your virtual career. And also brought to you by the Fluffy Kitty Ninja Show on Twitch. Hockey, racing, baseball, and other adventures await you when you combine 3 of the coolest things on the internet into one show. Head to Twitch and hit that follow button for FKN Commish LB. Now, on to those results. Up at the top, Alexander Klank put on a clinic, and following him home, amazingly, Christian Eisler outdrove his rivals, not without maybe a bit of controversy, as there was contact at one point to get him into that second place. Even still, he took the most points of our top 3. Juan Manuel Landini will finish in 3rd to complete our podium, with Thomas Ellison taking 4th, coming from 8th place, and then one-upping him, going from 11th to 5th, is Eric Luke. One-upping him comes Guillaume Dupont, I think our mover of the race, actually, from 14th to 6th place. Great stuff by the 009. Pete Mabroten is able to get 7th, just ahead of Aaron Thacker, who today actually didn't move up positions for once. Unusual for him. He still gets 8th overall. Daniel Pinto was fighting for 2nd place with Eisler. He was the one that made contact with him, but unfortunately the damage from that contact sent him falling farther and farther down until finally he settled into 9th at the checkered flag. Rounding out our top 10, Taylor, is Mark File.
Justin Hall in that 164 Ford in the 11th position. Really good run. Michael Overbay decided to make a pit stop early, but it looks like that strategy did not work out too well for him. He'll finish in 12th position. Followed by Andrew Foster in the 13th position. Takeshi Kita, usually one of those who works his way up through the field, pretty much just stayed in his spot for the most part, finishing in the 14th position. His teammate Lucio Vargas right behind him in 15th. Moises Labato in the 57 comes home in the 16th position, followed by the 007 of James LeBlanc in 17th. Karsten Quint came home in 18th position, and Cristobal Valenzuela will finish 19th, the last car on the lead lap. Cars one lap down are Victor O'Brien in 20th and Gary Schillings 21st. And the most surprising thing of all tonight, Joe, is Ben Perez finishing 22nd, dead last, 24 laps down.
Boy, that connection problem hurt him badly. But it didn't hurt Alexander Klank, who we have to talk to here today. Alexander, your maiden win in the series and your rookie season. How does this feel?
Oh, it feels great. Thank you, guys. Had, P2s, got close, but finally got the win.
Now, we noticed that you had the German flag colors on your helmet. Is this, do you have German heritage in you? So does this count as a semi kind of home win for you?
Yeah, I'm half German. I was actually born in Switzerland, though, but I lived in Germany before I moved to the U.S. So yeah, I guess it is.
Well, that's fantastic stuff. What a way to take your first win. When you saw the lap that you were able to get there in the warm-up and then in the qualifying, did you start to feel pretty confident that you could take P1 home here?
Yeah, so the setup I had was a quali setup I turned into a race setup. So I knew it would be good for quali, and I got that lap in. I was not positive about the race, but it turned out to be a great race up as well, and it took me home.
I'd say it took you home. There's a pretty big gap between you and Eisler at the win. Now, I believe you are too far back to take the championship, but do you think you can get a second one at VIR in a week's time?
Unfortunately, I can't make that race. This is my last race. I'm going back to college next week, so I also won't be able to do the next season. So I just want to thank the organizers for running a really great season. I had a great time, and also thank you guys for covering it.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for the kind words. And, well, again, congratulations on getting a win before you had to take off. What a way to do it.
Thank you.
That was Alexander Klank, our winner today. And
well, as we have little issues, we're going to bring in now 12th place finisher Michael Overbay. And Michael, we had a really interesting race tonight. Had decided to pit early, and tell us what your strategy call was.
Well, since I got bumped a little bit early and had good pace today, and it kind of put me back in the pack a little bit, and I knew I had about another second a lap, and I was just hung up in traffic, figured I might as well go ahead and pit early and see if I could come out with it, and I come out, and then I spin it again. Trying to push it, but it's all right. The car was good. I know it was faster. I always seem to have trouble with this track for some reason.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of drivers had issues tonight. So next week's VIR. So what is your goal as you try to close out the season next week?
Well, hopefully next week, maybe top 10. I'm hoping to close it out with. I don't even have the tracks. I got to go by it and practice it. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, now that we're at closing end of the season, any plans for next season with looking forward to that, or any goals or any opportunities for you for that next season?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I don't know, I would probably run this again next season, and then maybe run a little bit of their Thursday night league too here. I would like to thank the league PRL, if you don't mind, and you guys for broadcasting, and Apex Button Box, my teammate Eric.
And we appreciate the show you put on for us tonight as well. So this is Michael Overbay, and Joe, I think we got one more driver in the booth.
Absolutely. We've got Pete Mabroten, who managed to get himself into 7th. So let's talk to Pete about how his race went. And Pete, you started in 10th, and you had a bit of a battle there with DuPont. I believe you had an off early on, but overall, are you satisfied?
It wasn't my best race tonight. To be frank, I could have put in a little bit more seat time. I was trying to get most of my practice in during the official practice sessions this week. Consistency, like with the rest of my races so far this season, consistency needs a little bit work, but I am feeling a little bit better about my competency in the car. I was able to nail a couple of sections that were initially pretty difficult for me on this race, so pretty happy about that. A little bit of improvement.
Obviously, your team being Fluffy Kitty Ninjas, you guys came forward to sponsor both last race and this one. Tell us a little bit about the Fluffy Kitty Ninjas show. What kind of escapades do you guys get into over there?
So I was actually brought onto the Fluffy Kitty Ninja team to help drive one of the Nürburgring 24 endurance events on iRacing. I'm pretty new to their group there, and they do quite a lot of NHL, iRacing, and some other kind of fun esports that keep it pretty light, pretty entertaining to watch. Every once in a while, you might have James jumping on with his kids, get something switched up a little bit. Good, positive group of guys, wide range of esports. Highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty fun time, actually. So we were talking to the other drivers about next round going to VIR. Can you be there? And what do you anticipate? Another top 10 possible?
I'm hoping to have pace for top 10. With the caliber of racing that we see in this series, it's anyone's game, especially for us, kind of mid-pack pace folks. But I'm definitely gonna try my best. It's kind of my speed. I tend to prefer the more technical tracks, so I'm looking forward to it.
One last one before we let you go. Next season, going to come up quickly at the start of September. If you had one request for a track you'd love to see in this series, which one would it be?
I think Zolder is my new favorite, based on the experience that I had with it this week in Skip. I think it would be really interesting to see what the technical caliber of drivers in this series does on a short, tight track like that.
Yeah, that would certainly, it's not a long lap. That would provide some very close racing in this series. Well, again, nice job in 7th place, and can't wait to see you next week.
Thanks, Joe.
That was Pete Mabroten, 7th place finisher here today. And that is going to close it up for us. Another big thank you to our two sponsors, both LeagueGaming.com. Again, you can find them at the most obvious place, LeagueGaming.com. And as well as Fluffy Kitty Ninjas, who you can find over on Twitch under the username FKNCommishLB. Now, we also want to thank the organizers of the American iRacing Tuesday Series and the Precision Racing League for coming and joining us for another season. And we want to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go out to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook @Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Next round, the final one. Can't wait to see how this one plays out. see how things turned out today. That'll be at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, Taylor's home track. That'll be Tuesday, August 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.